This will be an overview of Chapter 2 of the Odyssey. Let's go ahead and let's get started. Story takes place in the present day of the story. So remember, there's been flashbacks and forth, so we are current time where Athena returns to Mount Olympus. Now, much like current government, very little has been done in her time away. After they met and agreed that they were going to help free Odysseus, nothing has happened. So Athena is obviously a little upset, but even though she is the daughter of Zeus, she still needs to kind of watch her tone a little bit as she addresses Zeus, king of the gods. So she talks about Odysseus, characterizing him as a wise and beloved king. She uses a little verbal irony since she addresses her words to all the kings, which would include Zeus. And she wishes that all kings will be awful because a truly great king Odysseus is abandoned by the gods. And that clearly the gods are not rewarding this kind of behavior. So she's characterizing Odysseus, again, with this high praise. And we just kind of read a whole monologue. Now, as we continue, she really describes Odysseus's current predicament as he's trapped on this island with the nymph Calypso. Her descriptions are dramatic, but Zeus kind of seems a little like checked out and almost like a little like, hey, we'll get to it when we get to it. So he does remind her that they said they would get to freeing Odysseus and that she's a god, right? Hey, you do your own thing. So she rushes off to begin to help Odysseus, and Zeus orders Hermes, messenger of the gods, to visit Calypso and to command her to release Odysseus. So Hermes puts on his sandals. These are wing sandals that give this ability of speed and flight. And it's fascinating. These sandals would actually work on mortals. If anybody's seen like the Lightning Thief movie, they wear these as well in Converse. So there's some awesome metaphors and similes describing Hermes' travel from Mount Olympus across the sea and finally to the island of Calypso. Now, the caves here are beautiful, right? Like, oh man, look, check these out. Like, her home is off the hook. So into Calypso's house he goes. So check this out, like a whole pool. She's sitting here at the loom. She's actually singing of Aphrodite, the goddess of love, before Hermes interrupts her. They greet each other in a friendly manner. Again, you can imagine she's an immortal nymph. He's a god. They've probably seen each other over the last few centuries. And they appear to be on good terms. So Hermes, though, all business, informs her that this is not a social call. He is there to pass a message from Zeus. Refers to Odysseus and says, you need to release your prisoner so that he may finally return home. Now, she does not like this at all, right? Her mood instantly changes when she realizes that Hermes is here to take away her boy toy, right? So we need to understand something. Calypso has been doomed to live on this island forever. She can never leave. And she has enjoyed the company and companionship of Odysseus and does not want to let him go. But neither does she want to go against the will of Zeus. So, not wanting to invoke Zeus's wrath, Calypso goes and visits Odysseus and tells him that she's letting him go because she feels like it. After keeping him captive on her island for 7 years, it's time to let him go. Now, Odysseus suspects a trap. Again, remember, this is a wise, cunning man. And is like, I am not going to go until you promise me that nothing is going to happen to me, right? So this is a little bit of irony. Again, Calypso informing Odysseus that she has suddenly decided to allow him to return is not what we, the reader, know. We know that Zeus has commanded this of her. So he does not believe that a raft would be able to reach home, and he does not trust Calypso. So he makes her swear that she means him no harm. So she swears it. And in fact, she says that if he knew all the trials that still faced him, he would rather stay on her island. And not only to stay on the island, but I want you guys to catch that she has actually offered him immortality. But Odysseus loves his wife so much that he will suffer the wrath of the gods and turn down this gift. He wants to leave. So he compliments Calypso, telling her how beautiful she is, and then takes her hand and they walk into Calypso's bedroom. Now, I don't know how we go from saying for Odysseus that I would rather risk death and the wrath of the gods than to not see my wife again, and then go to bed with another woman. So this might be where the tone of this chapter could affect our feelings towards Odysseus's imprisonment. Is he under a spell? Is he bewitched? Or is he willing unfaithful, right? Is he sleeping around because he can? So several days later, 5 days, Odysseus is on his way home on a crude raft. Calypso loads him up with supplies and sends him on her way. And Poseidon sees that Odysseus is once again on the sea and is enraged. He's not going to kill Odysseus, but he is going to make his journey a difficult one. Now, we don't understand why Poseidon hates Odysseus at this point. We have to wait to find out what's going on here. But it is interesting, right? So many of the gods seem to be in favor of Odysseus, except for Poseidon. So he goes, uses his trident, stirs up the ocean, and destroys Odysseus's raft. Snaps the mast in half. So Odysseus is clinging to the raft, and now Ino, a once mortal daughter of the sea god Cadmus, appears to him. And she's like, dude, why is Poseidon so angry with you? Now, he doesn't answer, but he does ask her what he can do to survive this storm. So she tells him to take off his clothes, which is a common request in a lot of different mythologies, and gives him her enchanted veil to wrap around him, and he will be safe. But he's got to get to land as soon as possible. So, without any other choice, Odysseus jumps off into the water and starts to swim. Now, Athena comes and helps him as Poseidon looks on. Now, Poseidon, his anger is abated. He backs off a little bit. Athena helps Odysseus get to the island of the Phoenicians. Now, it has been nearly 20 years at this point of time. The last 10 have been filled with a lot of misfortune. Again, getting kidnapped on an island. So when he spies this land, he's like, do I go or do I try to find something else? So he decides, I'm going to risk it. It's not worth incurring the wrath of Poseidon. So again, he's a rock in a hard place. The veil is protecting him at the moment in the sea, and I don't know what's waiting on the island. So do I go and I risk it, or do I stay and try to find somewhere else? So Again, this is a perfect like man versus nature, right? I'm either lost to sea, lost to land. Athena is continuing to help him out until he washes ashore. So he is now marooned on an unknown island, walking around butt naked. Athena, still helping out our man Odysseus, casts a deep sleep on him to help him recover from his strength and to forget the bitter sting of his many sorrows. She is the gal. Now we meet some new secondary or subordinate characters. We meet a princess of the Phoenicians, Nausicaa. She is on her way to do some laundry, play some beach volleyball. Odysseus is awoken by their noise. He's kind of peering through the bushes. There's something here called an aside. An aside is where Odysseus is speaking his thoughts out loud. And again, he's not crazy. He's not talking to himself as though he's bonkers. But this is a way to communicate his thoughts to where we, the audience, kind of know what's going on in his head. So he watches for a moment, and then he decides he's going to go ahead and take his chances. He reveals himself to the lady. Again, some very strategically placed bushes. He's not revealing too much of himself. And half of the gals, like, run away. Now, he begs the princess, please stop. I'm in great distress, right? We find he was adrift in the ocean for 20 days. Begs for them to help. So Nausicaa says, I will help. In fact, I'm the daughter of King Alcinous. Go into town, here's some clothes, go into town, talk to my father. So Odysseus dresses, has some food, and walks into town. Now Athena comes, says, go see the queen first. Disguises his presence so he can walk into the town invisible. And in the moment that he goes and talks to the king and queen, this kind of invisibility around him drops. Everybody is shocked, like, where did this dude come from, right? And Odysseus talks his way out of it and says, I just want safe passage. Will you help me return home? Now, again, this is where an understanding of Greek culture is so important, especially as it relates to cities that worship Zeus. We find that Zeus looks kindly on those who help the humble in need. Again, remember, the gods could be walking among them. So the king agrees and informs Odysseus that he will be given a bed and a night's rest before they make plans to help him on his way. Again, really nice dude, right? Gives him, like, could you guys imagine, just complete stranger, hey, I got some hard times, help me out, please. So, I mean, their attitude is fantastic. They are generous. Guests should be grateful. Odysseus is humble, right? So again, there's going to be a contrast where Odysseus is being rewarded for his humility, coming and asking for help. How do you think that the suitors in Ithaca will be rewarded? Are they taking advantage of the graciousness of their hosts? Okay. The next day. Now, the king escorts Odysseus to this amphitheater near the port. And he presents Odysseus to the people as an honored guest. Now, again, think about their hospitality. At this point in the story, they do not yet even know who this man is. They don't know of his fame, his misfortune, and yet they're planning on sending him home on one of their ships crewed by 250 of their best sailors. But before that, they would like to take some time to show off their kingdom so that when Odysseus goes home, he can tell everyone how the Phoenicians have some of the most athletic men, some of the best dudes in the world. So, again, he's a stranger. They're doing all of this for a stranger. So we get a glimpse into these games, these Olympic games. So we get this little montage of athletic events, right? So there's races, jumps, wrestling, boxes, and the king, Alcinous, he's kind of looking at Odysseus, and he actually offers him an opportunity to participate. But Odysseus, he's not in the mood. He's not feeling it. He just wants to go home as quickly as possible. So here's where things get interesting. One of the men come up. He is the winner of the wrestling contest. His name is Euryalus. He comes to Odysseus and challenges him to join. And Odysseus is like, dude, I'm not feeling it. So he says that the reason you're not joining is because you don't have any skills. So he calls out Odysseus, is like, you must be some kind of a lost merchant. You have no skills. You're incapable of competing in any sort of physical sport. So Odysseus he gets his pride struck. He finds himself unable to turn down this insult and decides to teach him a lesson by picking up this discus, this shot put, if you will, and throwing it further than any of the Phoenicians. So, oops, maybe I insulted the wrong man. All of the people are impressed, as is the challenger, who apologizes. Odysseus accepts his apology, and as any good day should end, they go to this awesome banquet after a day of playing games and competition, where a bard tells this story of the fall of Troy, sings of the Trojan horse and of the heroics of the men, mentioning Odysseus by name. So I want you guys to catch this. Stories are being told of Odysseus, and he still hasn't even been home. It's been 20 years. This is a party, right? Okay, so bards, again, musicians, telling the stories of Troy. I'm going to kind of keep going. Now, I want you guys to catch that Odysseus begs the bard to stop playing, and is like, he's choked up. So the king calls a halt to the festivities, and they all wonder, like, dude, what's going on? Why would this story affect you so badly? So finally, the king begs Odysseus, like, who are you? What's your lineage? Why are you so upset by these stories? And Odysseus finally reveals his identity. Finally says, I am the very man that you are all singing about. And I would like to tell you my story of my return from Troy and all the adventures and misadventures that I've had by the will of Zeus. And that ends chapter 2.